All right. Sarah Everard, a woman who was murdered. They suspect she's murdered. And they're going to use her death to attack men. They're going to talk about women's safety. Women are safe as they can be. And they're going to use it to attack men, the average guy in the street. Now you watch.
Appear Baroness Kennedy QC and Deputy Chief Constable Sarah Glenn of Hampshire Police and of the National Police Chiefs Council. Helena, if I may start with you, is the law working to make women safe? Are the deterrents strong enough?
Yes, there are plenty. If a guy hurts a woman and people see it, they put him behind bars. That's how it works. The guilty men are put behind bars. So this is a non-issue.
Well, Emma, you've probably heard me saying this before, but we've got to remember that that law has been rooted in the experience of men. I mean,
no, it hasn't. It's been rooted in what people think. Everyone has laws. Both men and women are not allowed to steal or murder. At least I like to think so. So this is bullshit from the start. This is propaganda.
The rules in our society have always been created by those who have power. And so the legal system...
Women have always had power and influence in society. Always. That's why there's a sentencing gap between men and women. Women get less sentence. They have a shorter sentence for the same crime. That's a fact. Not only is the law being good to women, it's bending over backwards. It's actually in their favor.
The system itself is embedded in the values and the perspectives and experience of the men who made law. And it's only been comparatively recently that we've had women in Parliament, we've had women in the senior positions in the judiciary after a long...
and that was a bad decision. I used to think it would have been a great idea to have 50-50 representation. But this is what you get when you get 50-50 representation. You get injustice. The women exclude men and turn on men in their own country, on the streets. And that's what this woman is doing.
Struggle. We've also tried to do bits of reform here and there, and some of it has worked and some of it hasn't. But the continuing figures and the continuing experiences of women tell you that there's something still seriously wrong. And a lot of it's about attitudes, but a lot of it...
Look, their attitude. This means non-reference, reverential, non-differential, I suspect is what she's talking about.
It is about things that begin much earlier in the lives of boys and girls.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Now they're even attacking boys. Boys don't know their place. The little cotton pickers don't know the girls are above them. That's what this woman is talking about. This is a baroness. Man, I used to only see people like this in comic books. The comic book villain, where they would be rubbing their hand and saying, ha, 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 I'm going to do evil today. This is what this person is. Now she's after little boys.
Girls learn very early on that that they inhabit bodies that are vulnerable and that they have to self-protect and self-save.
All children are vulnerable. Little boys are vulnerable too. Heck, men are invulnerable. We're only flesh and blood.
God, and if they don't, they will be held responsible. You know, why are you out late at night? Why were you walking on the common? Why were you journeying home at a certain time of night? That sort of thing is always being placed before women.
Do you
only placed when they are irresponsible? It's not a case where they didn't arrest the man. If there was an attack and they could catch him, they'd put him behind bars. But if there was an attack and the guy gets away, there's not much they can do. But a lot of this is rhetoric, remember? This is propaganda. So these women aren't even being attacked. They're just complaining that the police don't put a man behind bars because they say so. They want it to be like they want the man on the street in England to be like the black man of the American South, you know, post pre-60s. They want to be able to point a finger at him and he gets lynched. That's what these women want. It's the gender KKK. That's what they are.
Do you think, if I could just put in there, do you think when we were just hearing those figures there, 5% of reported rapes ending in conviction last year, the lowest that it's been, do you think...
Know why? Because there's been very few rapes. Obviously, the police are doing their jobs. Rape is rare and it's becoming rarer. And what they want is conviction rates. So at this point in the game, they're not even worried about whether it's true or not. They never were. They want some woman to point at a man, and if he gets on her nerves, she can say he raped her, and he gets lynched. That's it.
I think it's also part and parcel now that women think, I'm just not going to bother reporting, even the lower level through to the higher.
Well, they're not going to bother reporting if it's bullshit, and the police know it's bullshit.
Level. What do you read of that? Because do you worry that those will put people off, put women off?
Oh, absolutely. The figures put women off. They know the difficulties that they're going to have in getting a fair hearing. They don't feel listened to.
This is bullshit. This is bullshit. Women get, extra treatment by the law. And you don't feel they're being listened to? I mean, what an insult to justice. These women just want to come up and gripe to the police that some guy looked at her at the bus stop. Go and arrest him. He's creeping me out.
And so they don't want to engage with that part of our society's sort of mechanisms.
Also, you might find out the police find out she's full of shit. And if I had my way, there'd be consequences for these women. And then there'd be some kind of law in the land.
They really don't. And we had, that we've just had in the last few days a number of reports being done. One by the UN in relation to women, UN Women UK. And
UN Women UK, I wouldn't trust those reports whatsoever. This is a woman who's willing to attract children. Why would I trust these people? I don't.
It was a hugely a depressing report on the numbers of women who said that they experienced, young women experiencing daily abuse, daily feelings of threat, and that they don't ever report it because they know that there's no...
This is bullshit. They're young women, right? Probably some guy came on to her and he's low status. He turns her stomach. Therefore, she wants to go to the police and say, put that guy behind bars. And the police say he hasn't done anything wrong. Tell him to bug off. That's what's going on here. They want the average guy on the street who's low status to be thrown in jail at a woman's word.
Point. And the same has come out of a YouGov thing recently, where they again spoke to women about their experiences, and women are still being confronted with this daily round of attrition, of horrible conduct, of being abused verbally, sometimes physically, and not feeling that they can get...
You see, notice there's never any specifics. Because if they give specifics, you could judge whether it was trivial or not. Verbal abuse. Does anyone listening to this woman think that men are just coming up to women and calling them names or anything like that? Verbal abuse. I suspect some guy's catcalling her, and she wants that guy jailed for it.
Redress at all,
well,
and it doesn't.
Let's bring Sarah into this because she is part of what the redress should be. I wanted to start by asking you how the mood is in the police at the moment with the arrest of this officer.
Thank you. First,
Helena, what do you make of the police? Are they fit for purpose for women at the moment?
Well, listen, a lot of we've just heard from one of the really fine women leaders in the police force.
Let's hear more from this Bond villainess. the Baroness.
Forces in this country, and there are 40 odd police forces, remember, so all of them are different, but a number of them are now led by women. And for example, in Nottingham, there's been a really interesting piece of work being done looking at misogynistic hate crime, and although it's not a crime,
Misogynistic hate crime. More feminist rhetoric. And what makes me, I don't know if it's angry or depressed or just disgusted. I guess disgusted is a word, is that British men right now are taking this right up the yin yang. The most they're ever going to do is complain about it on YouTube comments. They're not going to gather around and use solidarity and protest in the street against this. These guys they always do the same thing. They duck and cover and run. Once it's women attacking them, they're useless because they want to grovel to these people. These people want to put these guys behind bars, and all they want to do is lick their boots. Men of Britain, pathetic.
crime, they're looking at the ways in which women experience daily, in the daily round, quotidian stuff, which really
Quotidian stuff? What does that even mean?
undermines their whole sense of safety, their whole, their sense of self.
She just gave it away. Sense of self. In other words, these women aren't important, and some low-level guy is maybe paying attention to them, and he doesn't know his place. The average guy on the street, the average woman on the street sees the average guy as beneath her, and she wants deferential treatment. She's walking the sidewalk. He crosses the street to the other side, like the good cotton picker he is.
And confidence, and it starts at that low level, but it actually is a continuum. And what they're doing in Nottingham, a force that's again led by a woman, is that they're
you see, they're trying to say that a guy who catcalls a woman is going to escalate into all the way up to rape, right? That's what I take from this.
really taking this seriously. They're trying to document it and to see whether changes in the law might be necessary. And there are lots of gaps in the law like that where we really have to address what women are experiencing.
It just sounds from what you're saying there that women are doing a lot of work.
No, they aren't. Women are sitting on their asses and they're going to the police and they're bitching over the trivial and they're expecting injustice to the men. That's what they're doing.
Very conscious of the fact that we need to talk about men, and I'm going to talk to a man in a moment about men and masculinity. But I suppose
these people, I mean, talk about disgusting masculinity. In other words, they're going to be talking about how free men are anathema to the average woman. They want these guys to know their place. They don't want them to be free.
Helen, I know how long that you've been campaigning in this area. I don't want to put more work on women's plate, but do you think women can ever reclaim the streets, or has it got to...
See, this is bullshit feminist rhetoric. Women walk the streets in daylight, even at night, no problem. I bet you go in any place in England on Saturday night, women are out there partying and walking around in the streets. This is a bold-faced lie. Period. And I can say it because the men of England can back me up. You know, they can say, yeah, I see women roaming around, partying up at night all the time.
to completely shift now where the focus is?
Oh, listen, I remember in the 70s when that was the campaign that we had to reclaim the night, and there were those demonstrations to make the streets safe for women. Well, it clearly hasn't worked. This has to move.
Yeah, this Bond villain, she's pissed off because they didn't just go up and start jailing men and making a curfew for them and keeping them off the streets so the women could have it all to themselves.
To men. This has to be that we direct our attentions to the conduct of men, and men. There are plenty of good, decent men, but they have to start calling out the bad stuff.
Now, this is the ultimate gaslighting. What is the sucker men listening to this are thinking? Well, I'm one of the good guys, and the guy across the street, he's the bad guy. But the guy out across the street is saying, well, I'm the good guy. And that asshole across from me, he's the bad guy. So you just have a bunch of rats, guys ratting on each other and saying, this is the guy. This is pathetic.
The commenting, the way in which women are denigrated in the conversations that men have, the ways in which women
denigrating conversation. In other words, guys are talking personally. It's locker room talk. They're not involving women. They're talking about women, and it's not deferential. They're probably saying something like, "Yeah, I'd bang her. She's got nice legs. Shame of the face." So basically, they want to even invade men's privacy, which they do all the time, and monitor what they say. That's what it is. So some woman doesn't accidentally overhear them.
Are harassed and undermined, often in the workplace, but I mean, even outside school gates, apparently. So
the workplace is female differential as it is. Where I work, the office is full of women. They get the easy, clean, 9 to 5 in the daylight jobs.
So that we really have to get our men folk to start saying that they have a responsibility to start dealing with this behaviour in the people around them, because they often don't, and they let it go by, and it's left to women to have to confront this. And so that's good enough.
If it's left to women to confront it, why don't they? They don't. They always run to a man. They always run to a man or a group of men.
Enough. Sarah, just a word from you on men, and whether you think the men who are doing this feel that they would get in trouble when you've arrested men who've been reported to have, I don't know, verbally abused a woman or sexually harassed them. Give us an insight into the reaction that they have.
See, all these vague terms. Sexual harassment's bullshit too. Verbally abused. These are ordinary guys in the street.
I think some of the comments that have been made in your opening are really clear. How early people form views about what is healthy sexual behaviour. It starts really early around.
There you go. This is more bullshit. They're basically going to talk about making men mind their P's and Q's, and that's going to prevent sex altogether. They don't want men to have sex because men have to initiate it. They have to show the supposed confidence. They've got to be persistent. So, I mean, that's the way it is. So if they're going to moderate men's sexual come-ons, the men aren't going to get any. Capiche?
Research. I recently watched a documentary called Generation Porn. It was one of the most horrific things I've ever watched. Actually, what we are impregnating people with who actually go onto the internet is in order for sexual gratification. They pretty much look like rape scenes.
Yeah, okay. This is important too. They're coming after porn again. She's trying to suggest that people are watching pornography that shows rape and then they become rapists. No. Women have rape fantasies and they go on the internet to fulfill those. That's why those are there. If no one was into them, they wouldn't be there. But this is to attack pornography for men. I want you to believe that.
Early on, we need guys to step into this debate.
But this isn't a debate. Where do you see the opposition? Where's the other side? Everyone they've pulled in so far and who they're going to pull in are going to be for one side of the issue. They want men demonized and criminalized for being men. You will find nobody on the other side arguing for men.
Are we all over dealing with violence and sexual offences on a daily basis? Yes, we are. We see it, we deal with it. We are the ones who are really close to this, and we are committed to serving our communities.
Well, that's your perception, of course, of where you work, but you know how the women feel is perhaps different, and we'll be hearing more about that. Sarah, Glenn, thank you.
See, even the men, the policemen, they're spitting on. That's your perception. We'll get right by this person. She has nothing worthwhile saying. And here's our good little slave boy that's going to attack people, attack men.
Been with people of your own age who perhaps aren't talking how they should be about women.
Yeah, these guys don't know their place. These selected guys who are probably just hanging around talking to each other. They don't know, to stay at earshot of the superhumans.
At Beyond Equality, we work with men and boys. So we work from the ages of 11 all the way up to whatever age you can.
There you go. They're indoctrinating children. They're after the boys. So that by the time they're his age, they're just like him. This is the kind of guy they would jail in a heartbeat, by the way. He's the first one they go after because they have complete contempt for laydowns.
Can think of in schools and in universities and in corporates, and then in my personal life as well. Yeah, I've definitely had experiences of having to pull people to the side, having to have conversations which aren't necessarily comfortable conversations.
No, I bet this guy's going to get himself hurt. He's going to pull the wrong guy aside who says, "Who the hell are you?" and socks him one.
About what needs to happen, about what needs to change, about things that are inappropriate. And I think really the core of this is that those things can feel very nitpicky, but actually...
Exactly. They're trivial. The guy was doing nothing wrong. And this guy's going to put himself in real danger talking to the wrong guy.
What we find is that when those attitudes are challenged, that can lead to more change. And I think that becomes really, really crucial.
I was watching, you've done a TEDx talk on this, and you talked about some of the word associations.
That's another thing, TEDx. There's TED Talks, and then there's TEDx. TED Talks is for the serious stuff, the highbrow stuff, and TEDx is for this kind of anti-male propaganda and trivial.
That boys can have with women. And they are, frightening in some respects of how awful and violent and obviously degrading in sexual terms and otherwise. What do you think is key to unlocking that toxic masculinity, getting rid of it from a young age?
Well, the idea of masculinity is something that we learn and is given.
See, they're going after the boys. They're going to try and turn the little boys of Britain into slaves.
And to us from a very, very young age. I can remember being about 8 years old and watching old James Bond films with my gran, and seeing these narratives like through TV, film.
What James Bond does is he's a man of high status who is also a thug. He'll come in the suit, tailored suits. He'll drive the fancy car, he'll throw money around and gamble. And the women are turned on by that. And then he'll kill a guy, and they're turned on by that even more. And then he has sex with them because they're very willing. That he's the type of guy they want. And then he doesn't marry them. He doesn't promise them anything. It's actually an equal trade. He's turned on by them, and they're turned on by him, and they have free sex. And that's it. The fact that they attack James Bond shows you that there's never been free love ever. Anyway, this is all we need to show about this. This guy is an agent for, I'd say, evil. He's after children. And men are being demonized by these people. And that Baroness, who's basically a Bond villain. Hey, I expect to see her in an undersea or volcanic, lair. Anyway, we'll let it go here. Men of Britain, you are in trouble because they've been gunning for you for decades, and they're coming for you now. And this woman is going to keep pushing until you are a criminal by birth. Thank you.